Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Thorne, and as a longtime hotel human resources director, it's a real pleasure to welcome all of you from the Europe Hotel School to this briefing. I've had a front row seat to a pretty profound transformation in our field, and today I really want to share that journey with you. Because you're not just stepping into an industry, you're the ones who are going to be leading it into the future. So I want to walk you through a story today, really in three parts. First, we'll look at the past, that administrative era that for decades was what HR was all about. Then we'll get into the present and the strategic revolution that's happening right now thanks to technology. And finally, we'll look to the future, and that's where you come in. We'll talk about the critical role you're being trained to play. All right, let's start by rewinding the clock a bit to the administrative era. For a very long time, human resources was kind of tucked away in the back office. It was all about process, payroll, paperwork. And this heavy reliance on older methods, particularly static spreadsheets, well, it created some pretty significant and often hidden risks for the hotels we were supposed to be supporting. This slide really shows you the shift in a nutshell. On the one hand, you had traditional HR, which was always reactive, dealing with problems after they happened. It was viewed as a cost center, just another administrative expense on the books. Where we are today is completely different. We're expected to be a proactive, strategic partner who can actually show how our people, our human capital, directly drives profit. And the main tool of that old era, you guessed it, the spreadsheet. We'd build these massive, complex labor forecasts in Excel, but they had a fundamental flaw. They were static snapshots of a world that's anything but static. The very moment a big conference canceled or a major airline route shut down, that entire spreadsheet was obsolete. And rebuilding it was this slow, manual process where it was so easy for errors to creep in. It was like trying to navigate a storm with a map that was drawn yesterday. And all of that, well, it had to change. And it did. That brings us to right now, this strategic revolution. Those old limitations forced us to evolve, and that evolution is being powered by technology that lets us do what's called dynamic scenario planning. This is the turning point, where HR moves from just a supporting role to a leading one. At the heart of this revolution is a concept called the digital sandbox. The best way to think of it is like a flight simulator, but for your hotel. It's this incredible environment where you can test out countless what-if scenarios. What if there's a sudden drop in tourism? What if the new competitor opens up right next door? You can model the financial and operational impact in real time, all without ever messing with the live budget. So, how does this actually work? Well, it really comes down to three key things. First is integration. The system is constantly pulling live data from all the important places, your property management system, payroll, even your CRM. Second is flexibility. This lets you create as many what-if budget versions as you want for any scenario you can think of. And third, and this is huge, is collaboration. For the first time, HR and finance are looking at the same screen, seeing how staffing decisions affect service and the bottom line at the exact same time. Okay, that's the theory. But let's make this real. Let's see how this digital sandbox works in practice. We're going to apply it to two very different but very real challenges that you are absolutely going to run into in your careers. But first, to really understand the stakes here, just look at this. Labor is by far the single biggest operating expense in our industry. We're talking 30, sometimes up to 45% of all revenue. Getting your staffing levels right isn't just an HR skill. It is one of the most powerful levers you can pull for profitability in the entire hotel. All right, scenario A. Let's start with a crisis. Picture this. You wake up, you see the news, there's been a major travel disruption. Your occupancy forecast for the next month just plummeted by 20%. Now, the traditional reaction would be, frankly, panic, hiring freezes, or even worse, blunt across-the-board layoffs that just kill morale and service. But we can do so much better. Inside that digital sandbox, we can model a much more intelligent, surgical response. The system might identify an opportunity to use our cross-trained restaurant staff to help with a deep cleaning project during the downtime. It can flag employees who might actually welcome an offer of voluntary unpaid leave. It lets us make targeted shift reductions instead of sweeping cuts, all while protecting that core guest experience. And crucially, this helps us avoid the rehiring tax, that massive hidden cost of recruiting and training a whole new team when business, as it always does, bounces back. Okay, so that's dealing with a threat. Now let's flip the script and look at an opportunity. Scenario B. Your hotel is doing great, and you're about to open a brand new wing. This is fantastic news, right? But it's also a moment of extreme financial risk.
You have to hire a lot of new people before you see a single pound of new revenue from those rooms. The digital sandbox lets us model this kind of expansion with incredible precision. We can calculate the real ramp-up time, how long it takes a new concierge to get fully productive. We can see the true cost, the benefit loading of adding 50 new people to the payroll. And we can make sure we maintain service level parity so the fantastic experience in our original building doesn't suffer because of the new wing.
And this ability to model the future, it completely changes the conversation you can have in the boardroom. An HR leader isn't just arguing from a gut feeling anymore. Instead, you can walk in and state with total confidence, based on our model, this $20,000 investment in labor to cover the breakfast peak will yield an estimated $60,000 in additional quarterly revenue. That is the moment HR stops being a cost center and becomes a data-driven, strategic partner.
So this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the future. It's this journey from relying on intuition to using predictive analytics, and it all culminates with you. At the end of the day, all of this complex modeling, all this data, it serves one incredibly simple purpose: perfecting the guest experience. If you're understaffed, you get long lines at check-in and poor service. If you're overstaffed, you're just wasting profit that could be reinvested. The whole goal is to find that Goldilocks zone, that perfectly optimized staffing level that feels completely effortless to the guest and is as efficient as possible for the business.
This table really wraps up the entire shift. The old spreadsheet method? The data was questionable. It took weeks to model anything new, and the focus was always backward-looking, on cutting costs. The new method of adaptive planning? The data is live. You can model scenarios in minutes, and the perspective is predictive, focused on driving revenue and guest satisfaction. It's a night and day difference. And here's the bottom line for every single one of you. As the next generation of leaders graduating from the Europe Hotel School, mastering these strategic tools isn't just a nice-to-have skill anymore. It's not optional. It is a core competency, every bit as essential as understanding finance or operations.
But, and this is so important, I want to leave you with one vital thought. Technology is an unbelievably powerful tool, but it is not a replacement for leadership. The software gives you the logic, but the magic, the real soul of hospitality, that still comes from the human element. The system can tell you that you need 5 new front desk agents. Your expertise, your humanity, decides the kind of personalities that will truly bring your brand to life for your guests.
So as you finish your studies and get ready to go out there and lead this industry, I'll leave you with this one question. We know that data provides the logic. The challenge and the amazing opportunity for each of you is to decide what will be your magic. Thank you.